Dubai has drains. That is what makes April 2024 so unsettling. In roughly 24 hours, more than 142 millimeters of rain fell over the city. That was more than Dubai International Airport normally records in an entire year. Roads vanished beneath water. Cars stopped in lanes that had become channels. Aircraft moved through standing water, while passengers struggled to reach the terminals. Yet the most important evidence appeared after the sky cleared. Satellite mapping later found that, inside one defined study area, much of the detected floodwater remained for days. Some of it was still visible, 10 days after the rainfall ended. So this is not a story about a desert city that simply forgot to install drains. Dubai had tunnels, pumps, inlets, crews, forecasts, and emergency equipment. The real question is more uncomfortable. How can a city possess enormous drainage infrastructure and still become a temporary reservoir? The answer is hidden in a chain that most people never see. Rain must first reach an inlet. The inlet must accept it. A local pipe must carry it. A larger tunnel must receive it. A pump or outfall must release it. The system does not need to break for the street to flood. The water only needs to arrive faster than the slowest link can move it. And in April 2024, that is exactly what happened. The storm arrived through a large weather system that affected the United Arab Emirates and Oman. The UAE recorded its heaviest rainfall since national records began in 1949. But the famous comparison with annual rainfall can be misleading unless we look at time. A year of rain spread across many separate days gives soil, drains, pumps, and roads time to recover. A similar volume compressed into one violent event creates a completely different engineering problem. Drainage systems do not experience annual totals. They experience flow per minute. Imagine a hotel that can comfortably receive 3,000 guests across a year. Now imagine all 3,000 arriving in the lobby before breakfast. The total number is unchanged. The operation is overwhelmed. That is what happened to parts of Dubai. Rain struck roofs, highways, airport surfaces, car parks, service roads, construction sites, and dense neighborhoods at nearly the same time. Each hard surface redirected water toward somewhere lower. The images that spread online focused on luxury cars floating in muddy streets. I understand why. A submerged supercar is an irresistible symbol. But it can also distract from the more serious failure. The city lost movement. Roads connect residents to work. They connect tourists to hotels. They connect airport employees to terminals. They connect food, fuel, cleaning crews, luggage handlers, and emergency services to the places that need them. When roads became channels, separate systems began failing together. Dubai International Airport did not need every runway to disappear underwater in order to lose capacity. If passengers and employees could not reliably reach the airport was already operating inside a larger transportation crisis. By April 19, Reuters reported that 1,478 flights to and from Dubai had been canceled since the storm began. The backlog continued after the heaviest rain had passed. That was the first major change in perspective. A drainage problem had become an aviation problem. And because Dubai sells speed, access, and convenience to the world, it had also become a tourism problem. The easiest explanation is that Dubai is a desert city and nobody expected rain. It is memorable. It is also wrong. Years before the 2024 flood, Dubai had already completed major stormwater projects. The clearest example lies beneath the Jebel Ali area. Dubai municipality describes a deep tunnel about 10.3 kilometers long and roughly 10 meters in internal diameter. The pumping system was designed to move about 9.5 million cubic meters of stormwater per day. Those numbers sound almost absurdly large. A tunnel wide enough to swallow a small building does not fit the internet claim that Dubai has no drainage. But here is the uncomfortable part. A tunnel this large protects only the water that actually reaches it. Before water enters the deep network, it must travel through street inlets, smaller pipes, junctions, and local collection systems. A powerful final tunnel cannot pull water through a local pipe that is already full. It cannot collect a district that is not yet connected. It cannot instantly remove water trapped in a low point with limited access to the network. This is why the question should never be, does Dubai have drains? The useful question is, how much water can the entire connected chain move at one moment? Without detailed operating data for every district, it would be irresponsible to claim that one specific component failed across the whole city. The evidence supports a narrower conclusion. Water accumulated in many places faster than the combined urban system could remove it. That is not the same as saying the infrastructure was useless. It means the event crossed the capacity available in particular places and at particular times. The distinction matters because it changes the lesson. If Dubai had no drains, the answer would be simple: build drains. But Dubai already had enormous drains. The harder problem is matching every local inlet, pipe, tunnel, pump, road level, and future development to a storm that may exceed the assumptions used when the network was designed. The giant tunnel is not proof that the flood should have been impossible. It is proof that size alone does not guarantee connection. Now move above ground. A desert does not automatically absorb a sudden downpour like a giant sponge. Long dry periods can leave surfaces compacted or crusted. Urban development adds roofs, asphalt, concrete, paved courtyards, logistics yards, and car parks. These surfaces do not destroy the water. They concentrate it. Imagine rain falling across a broad patch of open ground. Some water slows, spreads, collects in small depressions, or enters the soil. Now cover much of that ground with sealed surfaces. The same water is delivered toward fewer outlets in less time. This is the second hidden transformation. The city does not merely receive the storm. Its surfaces reorganize the storm. Once local pipes begin reaching capacity, elevation becomes the real drainage system. Water follows slope. A ramp becomes a chute. An underpass becomes a basin. A road designed to guide vehicles begins guiding runoff. The place that floods deepest may not be the place where the most rain fell. It may simply be the place where surrounding streets sent their water. That is why a clear drain cover does not guarantee a dry road. The inlet can be open while the pipe beneath it is full. The pipe can have space while the downstream junction is restricted. The main tunnel can have capacity while a low area has no fast route into it. At that moment, the city above the pipes starts making the decisions. Curbs hold water in lanes. Walls block one route and redirect another. Low points collect runoff from a much larger area than the puddle suggests. This helps explain why recovery continued after the rain stopped. NASA satellite imagery showed standing water around Jebel Ali on April 19. A later research project using high-resolution satellite data estimated that about 23.8 square kilometers flooded inside its study boundary. Researchers reported that 95% of the initially detected flooded area remained submerged 3 days after the rainfall ended. They reported that 37% remained by day 10. Those percentages do not describe all of Dubai. They describe the defined area examined by the researchers. But they reveal something more important than a dramatic image from the first night. The arrival of water was fast. The removal of water was slow. A storm becomes a resilience crisis when the city cannot return to normal after the clouds have moved on. While streets were still flooded, one explanation spread almost instantly. Cloud seeding caused the disaster. The theory offered a clean story. A plane entered the clouds. Humans interfered with the weather. The experiment went wrong. Mystery solved. But the available scientific evidence does not support that conclusion. World Weather Attribution linked the event to a large low-pressure system that produced severe storms across the region. Its analysis said cloud seeding did not have a significant influence on the event. Cloud seeding may try to encourage rainfall from suitable clouds. It cannot manufacture the vast supply of atmospheric moisture required for a regional storm of this scale. The weather system already existed. The moisture already existed. The instability already existed. The cloud seeding story was attractive because it gave viewers one machine and one decision to blame. The real explanation is less satisfying. A rare weather event interacted with a fast-growing city, hard surfaces, limited drainage capacity, low points, transport networks, and people who still needed to move. Climate change adds another layer, but accuracy matters here. World Weather Attribution found an observational trend suggesting that heavy rainfall events of this kind have become more intense in a warmer climate. Its estimate suggested that the event may have been roughly 10 to 40% more intense than it would have been during an El Niño year in a world about 1.2 degrees Celsius cooler. However, the climate models did not produce a completely consistent regional result. That means the evidence contains uncertainty. It does not mean the risk can be ignored. In fact, uncertainty is the engineering problem. Designers rarely receive a perfect forecast of the future. They receive incomplete records, probability ranges, changing land use, and a climate that may no longer behave exactly like the past. Dubai must decide what level of storm to resist, where water can overflow safely, how quickly roads should close, and how long recovery can reasonably take. The deepest lesson is not that one unusual storm defeated a city. It is that the assumptions beneath a city can expire before the concrete above them does. Dubai welcomed a record 18.72 million international overnight visitors in 2024. That fact does not weaken the flood story. It makes the story more important. The storm did not permanently destroy Dubai tourism. The city recovered. Visitor numbers rose again to 19.59 million in 2025. Any script claiming that one flood ended Dubai as a destination would be false. The stronger argument is about dependence. A tourism economy at this scale requires more than hotels and attractions. It requires continuity. A visitor expects the airport to work. The road to the hotel must remain open. Taxi drivers, hotel employees, restaurant staff, cleaners, tour operators, airline crews, and baggage handlers must all reach their jobs. The product Dubai sells is not only a beach, a tower, or a shopping center. It also sells the feeling that the entire journey will work without friction. That promise becomes more expensive as visitor numbers rise. In 2024, Dubai recorded more than 43 million occupied hotel room nights. Each extra guest adds spending, but also adds another person relying on roads, power, communications, airports, and drainage. A flooded underpass is therefore not just a municipal inconvenience. It can delay an airport transfer. That delay can become a missed flight. The missed flight can become an unplanned hotel night, a rebooking problem, a staffing problem, and a damaged impression of the destination. The financial cost of the April storm cannot be reduced to one reliable tourism loss figure. Some spending was delayed rather than lost. Some hotel stays were extended. Airlines, insurers, businesses, and public agencies absorbed different costs. Inventing one enormous number would make the story weaker. The more defensible conclusion is structural. The more successful Dubai becomes as a tourism hub, the less tolerance it has for broken connections. This is the third major change in perspective. Drainage is not merely a pipe beneath a road. For Dubai, drainage is aviation infrastructure. It is hotel infrastructure. It is business continuity infrastructure. And the scale of Dubai's official response shows that the city understood the problem in similarly strategic terms. In June 2024, Dubai approved Tasreef, a program valued at 30 billion dirhams. That is roughly 8.2 billion United States dollars. The official target is to increase the rainwater drainage network's capacity by 700%. In practical terms, the planned capacity is about 8 times the original level. The system is intended to manage more than 20 million cubic meters of water per day. Work is planned in phases through 2033. The first revelation is scale. Dubai is not adding a few roadside drains. It is attempting a citywide change in stormwater capacity. But Tasreef should not be described as a panicked idea created from nothing after the flood. It continues major drainage work that began before April 2024. The storm did something different. It turned an underground engineering program into a visible public question. The second revelation is a change in philosophy. For years, the instinctive goal of drainage has been to move water away as quickly as possible. Newer Tasreef projects include not only tunnels and pumping stations, but also a strategic stormwater collection lake. That detail matters. It admits that water cannot always disappear immediately. Sometimes it needs somewhere safe to wait. Storage can reduce the peak flow reaching pipes and pumps. It can transform uncontrolled flooding into managed delay. The smartest system is not necessarily the one that pushes every drop toward the sea at maximum speed. It is the one that decides where water may remain without trapping people or closing critical routes. The third revelation is the timeline. In February 2026, Dubai Municipality announced 5 Phase 2 contracts worth a combined 2.5 billion dirhams. The projects are intended to serve 30 areas, covering about 430 million square meters. Plans include a main tunnel, more than 27 kilometers of integrated drainage works, a pumping station, and the strategic collection lake. This is real progress. It is also a reminder that the final network is still being built. The solution must protect a city that continues to grow while construction continues until 2033. New communities, hotels, roads, logistics zones, and attractions create additional sealed surfaces and new runoff patterns. Dubai is not upgrading a stationary machine. It is chasing a moving target. The question is no longer whether the city can build something enormous. Dubai has answered that many times. The question is what protects the weakest connection before every phase is complete. Imagine it is late afternoon and another severe storm is approaching. The airport is still operating. A tourist has just entered a taxi. A hotel manager is deciding whether to continue airport transfers. An employee is driving toward a night shift. A family is approaching an underpass that looks wet but still passable. The deep tunnel may still have capacity. The problem is that one low road is already filling. Who closes it? And when? Close it too early, and thousands of journeys are disrupted for a flood that may never arrive at that location. Close it too late, and vehicles become trapped inside the drainage path. This is the part a larger tunnel cannot solve by itself. A weather warning says heavy rain is possible. An operational warning says this road will become unsafe before 5 o'clock. Those are not the same message. World Weather Attribution noted that warnings may not have reached everyone or may not have described local impacts clearly enough during the 2024 event. A resilient city needs forecasts that connect rainfall to specific roads, districts, and decisions. The airport needs to know whether staff transport will still function. Hotels need to know whether guests should remain inside. Drivers need to know which underpass will close before they reach it. Emergency crews need routes that do not depend on the same low points as everyone else. This is not a list of minor administrative improvements. It is the operating system above the pipes. Physical infrastructure creates capacity. Decisions determine whether people reach safety before that capacity is exceeded. The same principle applies to design. Some developments can slow runoff with planted areas, permeable surfaces, temporary storage, and safer overflow routes. Critical facilities can preserve more than one access path. Roads can be designed so that unavoidable water is directed toward places where it causes less damage. No city can guarantee that every street remains dry during every possible storm. That promise would be physically and financially unrealistic. A more credible goal is to prevent predictable traps, limit disruption, and restore movement quickly. The April flood showed that Dubai's hidden vulnerability was not one broken pipe. It was the timing between weather, water, infrastructure, and human decisions. The road becomes dangerous before the city looks completely flooded. The decisive moment may arrive while everything still appears almost normal. Dubai's drainage illusion was never that no system existed. The city had giant tunnels, powerful pumps, inlets, crews, forecasts, and emergency equipment. The illusion was the belief that once those systems existed, rain had become a solved problem. April 2024 broke that belief. More than a normal year of rain fell in roughly one day. Hard surfaces concentrated runoff. Road slopes guided it. Low points stored it. Some local routes could not move water into the larger network quickly enough. The airport disruption carried the problem into aviation and tourism. Satellite evidence showed that in a defined study area, the hydraulic consequences lasted far longer than the storm. Dubai's response is now measured in 30 billion dirhams. The plan includes an enormous increase in capacity, new tunnels, new pumps, and places designed to hold water rather than pretend it can always vanish immediately. That is not proof that Dubai is collapsing. It is evidence that keeping a fast-growing desert metropolis reliable becomes more expensive as the city expands and the climate becomes less predictable. The next extreme storm will not test one impressive tunnel in isolation. It will test whether the local inlet connects to the pipe. It will test whether the pipe connects to the tunnel. It will test whether the pump has capacity. It will test whether the road closes in time. It will test whether the airport, hotel, driver, and emergency service receive the same warning soon enough to act. This is why the flood matters beyond one unusual day. Dubai has shown that it can build larger infrastructure. Now it must prove that every small connection can keep pace with it. Because water does not search for the most expensive part of a city. It searches for the lowest point. And a system is only as resilient as the place where the water arrives first. This video is an independent educational analysis based on publicly available government documents, scientific research, satellite observations, and established news reporting available at the time of production. Flood conditions varied significantly between locations. The evidence does not demonstrate that every component of Dubai's drainage network failed during the April 2024 storm. The satellite recovery figures cited in this video apply only to the defined area examined by the researchers. That study was available as a preprint at the time of research, and its findings should be interpreted within that context. Climate findings are presented together with the uncertainty reported by the researchers. This video does not provide engineering, emergency, financial, or travel advice. During severe weather, always follow current instructions issued by local authorities, airports, airlines, hotels, and emergency services. Do you think cities should spend billions preparing for extremely rare storms? Or should they accept occasional disruption and invest that money elsewhere? Share your view in the comments. Subscribe for more investigations into the hidden systems that keep modern cities alive.